So today we're going to be looking at the two charts that actually expose why Bitcoin is more simple than the US dollar. And I know what many of you guys are thinking, but Luke, my grandma will never use Bitcoin. Bitcoin is far too complicated. Well, I'm not so sure. And I've got two charts that's going to help to explain why that is absolutely not the case. Okay. So this video today was actually inspired by this tweet here by Jamison Law. So again, credit where credit is due. He says, Bitcoin is too complicated. Oh, you understand, you know how the US dollar works? This visualization is showing you just how complicated the US repo market is. And as you can see, it is an absolute, as the title of the thumbnail says, shit show. It is shit complicated. It's ridiculous. Have a look at the thing. You've got dealers, you've got cash lenders, you've got primary dealers, you've got stand-in repo participants, dealer to customer, DTC markets. This is absolutely ridiculous, okay? And again, I tweeted this just after I saw that. I was quote tweeting Jamison, and I said, deficits don't matter. Money printing is not QE. Central banks are separate entities from the government. All of these are one big lie to confuse the everyday person from the fact that fiat money is a scam and governments are stealing 30% of your wealth a year. Opt out of this purposely complicated facade with Bitcoin. 21 million divided by infinity, okay? So that was one chart that kind of exposes why the US dollar is far more complicated than Bitcoin. Then I kind of want to have a look at this chart here, because this is easily one of my favorite charts, and I've kind of noticed that I actually haven't talked about it here on the YouTube channel for you guys. So what it is measuring the Dow Jones divided by gold, okay? Now, again, the reason we're using these two obscure markets is because the Dow Jones was actually the primary stock market before the 1900s. So as you can see, this chart here is actually looking at a lot of data. So it is zooming all the way back out to the 1800s. So if we're going to do that, we need to actually obviously use the Dow Jones as our proxy, and we need to use our gold as the denominator. And that is obviously because gold was money in the 1800s. So you can see that this ratio traded within a very constricted band for 100 years between 1800 and 1913. And then surprise, surprise, you guys can see what happened to this ratio since 1913. So again, what happened in 1913? Of course, we created the Federal Reserve. And until recently, it's been very difficult for people to zoom out and understand what is actually happening here. But things are changing, and people are beginning to actually realize that the US dollar is a scam. It's overly complicated. And I think the reason why people are beginning to understand this is because of how good the education is getting in the Bitcoin space. In case you missed it,
more valuable, but you can also...
I want to play this video from Kraken that I saw this week, because it is easily the best advertisement for Bitcoin I've ever seen. So let's take a look at this one.
So what is money and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. Gold originally had value because it was scarce, but no one knows how much is left to dig up. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has a limited supply, 21 million, and it can never be counterfeited. Every day, more people are buying it, making it more scarce, making it more valuable. But you can also split it up, because every Bitcoin is divisible by a lot. Each Bitcoin can be split into 100 million smaller units. So if one Bitcoin was worth $1 million, the smallest unit, called a Satoshi, would be worth 1 penny. So you can send whatever amount you want, and no one can stop you, because no central authority controls it. So unlike with banks and credit card companies, you don't need approval to use it, and no one can decide to just print more or shut it down. It puts the power back in all our hands. Bitcoin lets you control your finances. Kraken lets you buy Bitcoin. Kraken, see what crypto can be.
Okay, so except for that little slip up right at the end when they mentioned the C word crypto, I actually think this is one of the best advertisements for Bitcoin I have ever seen. I thought that video was phenomenal. Let me know in the chat what you guys thought of that video, but I loved it. And I thought, hey, this is so good. Maybe we need to do another video on it because it is absolutely phenomenal. But let's go back to this chart here. We didn't talk about it in depth, okay? Because you can kind of see I said the biggest scam we've ever fell for was believing we needed a central bank to lower volatility in financial markets. Look at how volatile markets have become since 1913, okay? People kind of have this very warped perception about what money is and why are markets so volatile today, okay? They're more volatile than ever before. And they've kind of just been lulled into the idea that we need a central bank. Because the whole reason that the Fed was created in 1913 was because of all of these bank crises that were happening in the late 1800s. They were saying, look, we can't use a gold standard. All of these banks are going bankrupt in the 1800s. We're having all of these quote unquote bank runs. We need a central bank to kind of help smooth out the volatility in these cycles, okay? But you guys can see very, very clearly what has happened to the volatility since these central banks, especially in the US, were created. So again, we had a central bank in England beginning in the early 1600s from memory, okay? But we didn't get one in the US until 1913. And this is when the whole world kind of, jumped off the gold standard in the 1916, 17 and 18 kind of era, because that was obviously when World War I started. And a lot of the major Western central banks began to depeg their currencies from gold in around 1916 or 1917, 1918. So again, forget my Freudian slip there. But this chart exposes the scam absolutely very, very well. Okay, it's incredible just what has happened to the financial markets since 1913. Okay, so I think now that we have incredible advertisements that are being released by people like Kraken. Okay, this video was really, really good. It was incredible. If you joined late, I'd encourage you to go back and check it out. Now that we have the propaganda on our side, I think like the tipping point is going to happen seriously quickly, okay? I think everything has the potential to happen a lot quicker than most people think. We are living in the digital age. This is the first inflation spike in the digital age. And I think, now that inflation is kind of bottoming, we might talk about that more in a second. I think things could really accelerate quickly, okay? I want to open up the chat, have a look at what is going on in the chat. Dan, holy shit, man. Dan's hooked me up with another super chat. Thank you so much, brother. $10. When you have the time, please take a look at the options expirations for Bitcoin. I see contracts with strikes ranging between 500 and 560K with high open interest. All calls, no puts, someone's bullish. Okay, so I'm going to dedicate a whole video to that because Dan gave me a $10 super chat. So we're going to dive into this topic in very, very big detail in the future. And that is interesting that we have so many strikes and calls between that price ratio, okay? So for anyone who doesn't know any of that lingo or what I'm talking about right now, there's lots of ways for people to get leverage to the price of Bitcoin. So the most common way that people get leverage to the price of Bitcoin is through longing and shorting it with leverage. Okay, so you could use 5x leverage, 20x leverage, 50x leverage, or 100x leverage. Okay, now that's the most common way that people are familiar with. Now, there's another way that you can actually get leverage to the price of Bitcoin, to the upside or the downside. Okay, the same way with leverage, how you can long or short Bitcoin. You can buy what's called a call or a put, okay? So this is a little bit interesting. It's a little bit complicated to explain, but if you're very bullish on the price of Bitcoin, you're going to actually buy something called a call, okay? And for example, if I think the price of Bitcoin is going to be worth $150,000 by December 2024, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to buy a call because I'm bullish on Bitcoin, and I'm going to buy a call with a strike price of $150,000 for the month December 2024, okay? So that is what options are at a very high level. Now, again, I just whipped that up off the top of my head, so it might not be the best explanation. So I'm going to dedicate a whole video to explaining what options are. But Dan's saying it's very interesting that there's a ton of people buying calls, so they're bullish on Bitcoin, and they're saying, well, they have a strike price between $500,000 and $560,000. So this means somebody is making very large bets because they think Bitcoin is going to have a price between $500,000 and $560,000 by the date the 28th of the 3rd, 2025. So that is January, February, March. So that is March 28th, 2025. So that is in about 11 months' time, if my maths is correct. A lot of people think Bitcoin is going to be worth over $500,000. So Dan says, someone's bullish, eh? 100% someone's bullish. All calls, no puts. So again, a call is bullish and a put is bearish, predicting the price is going to go down. So thank you for the super chat, Dan. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I don't actually pay a lot of attention to the leverage market. So I'm going to take a look at that. We're going to do a whole live stream on that topic. So thank you so much for the super chat. Bill, holy shit. Bill's hooked me up with another $20 super chat. Dude, thank you so much. I think Bill sent us the first $20 super chat ever for the channel, I think. So thank you so much for the continued support. Really, really appreciate that, man. I bought producer Pam a steak after that super chat. So thank you. She'll be happy to see this one too. She's already given me the eyes already. Okay, we got, speaking of Pam, we got Pam's brother in the chat, Andreas. Hello, Andreas. Might see you in about an hour's time, actually. I think we're having the family over for pupusas. Nearly 5K subs. Let's go. Thank you, Andreas. Mabel's in the chat as well. We got a family edition over here in El Salvador. This is Pam's mother, if you don't know. Hello, Mabel. Hope you're doing well. Cannot wait to see you later. Wish I could say that in Spanish. I should be able to say that later in Spanish. Quieres pupusa. Quieres pupusa en las noches. That's all I know in Spanish. We're going to have So Bill says, I believe this is going to be a super cycle and $500,000 Bitcoin is very, very realistic. I tend to agree with you, my friend. I really do think we are going to see a super cycle. I think all of these models are going to break. Speaking of models, let me show you a couple of models that I think are very, very interesting. Now, I've been diving deeper and deeper into the Bitcoin power law recently. One of the power law guys decided to call me out. So I really dove into the maths of the power law. And let me tell you, didn't like what I found. Made me even more bearish on the power law. So again, for those who don't know, this is the Bitcoin power law. Okay, and they seem to believe that if you plot the price of Bitcoin alongside time in the log space, that you can come up with this perfectly predictable Bitcoin power law model. And as you can see, they predict that Bitcoin is going to be worth, let me have a look here. I don't want to mischaracterize them. So in 2030, they think Bitcoin's going to be worth about $1.3 million. And they say, look, it's got like a 98%. I can't remember. I've got a terrible migraine, guys. My brain's not working. It has like a 98% correct coefficient. I can't remember the exact words, correlation maybe, but 98% accuracy. And that's very high. Don't get me wrong. In the world of statistics, that is very high. But I think $1.3 million by 2030 is a little bit on the bearish side because I actually agree with what Bill says. Okay, so again, this is the power law model. I've zoomed it up for you guys. We can see very clearly that, the power law is bearish. Let me make this chart bigger for you guys so you can see. Where does the power law put BTC at the end of 2025? Let me have a look. I'm gonna pull that up. Sorry, I was laughing. I was reading Pam's mum's chat. Si quiero pupusas, Luke. That means yes, I want pupusas. Okay, so let's quieres pupusas también, Mabel. Pam's laughing at my Spanish there in the background. Okay, where's the power law by 2025? Let's have a look. Let me get back on track. 2025, the Bitcoin power law is going to be at about $112,000. That's where the power law thinks Bitcoin's going to be 2025. Again, I'm doing this live, so I don't want to be inaccurate, but it looks like it's somewhere between, the green line says we're going to be somewhere between $125,000 and $150,000, okay? And on the upside, now again, all the gurus, they say it never goes above this purple line, the one standard deviation resistance line. That's what they call it. They say there's no way Bitcoin's going to get above $384,000 next year by 2025. The power law says it's impossible. In all the interviews that I've heard of the power law gurus, they say it's impossible. So that's the upper line for the Bitcoin power law. Okay. Cos puts it in the chat nicely. Power law is power low BS. Love it. It's brilliant. Watching so Chico's no longer in a hotel. Chico is the man who watches all of our live streams from the van. And he treated himself to a hotel visit for the halving party. For a halving party, his own little halving party. He's back in the forest. It is best to lump transfer over split up transfers to my wallet. These fees are ridiculous. So that's a great question, Chico, and it really does depend upon what is your goal. So it's funny, I could be faced with a similar conundrum because I have had a multi-signature wallet that I haven't looked at in 4.5 years. And I've actually lost a couple of the keys to that multi-signature wallet. And I am right now, as we speak, this week, trying to unlock it. And I know that I have multiple different UTXOs in that multi-signature wallet, and you ruin your privacy if you clump all of those UTXOs together and then send it to a different wallet. So that's kind of the argument for why you might not lump transfer. So that's an argument for why you should keep your UTXOs separate and split up the transfers to your wallet, because the fees are ridiculous. If we have a look, again, we did a video on the fees yesterday this is the personal channel. Sometimes I can't keep up, but we can see here, fees right now are under $7, which is nice. That's a lot better, okay? Again, guys, if you do not have Bitcoin in a Lightning channel today, put it into a Lightning channel today. I will be doing this today because most of my Lightning wallets are actually close to empty right now. And that's not how I want to be living in El Salvador. Okay, so if you don't have Bitcoin in your Lightning wallets, top it up. Today is a great day to do it because as we can see, fees are back down to $7. So Bill makes a great point here. Michael Saylor says these charts are going to be shattered this cycle. Now, I tend to agree. And speaking of Michael Saylor, you nearly took the words straight out of my mouth because that's where I actually wanted to take this video, okay? So we've been talking about why fiat is overly complicated and why it's a scam. And the obvious reason for why they make fiat so complicated is because they are trying to confuse you and obfuscate the everyday person from the fact that fiat money is literally stealing your wealth. Okay, that's not controversial. We got the data here. You can see very clearly that the purchasing power of the US dollar has lost 99% of its value since the creation of the Federal Reserve. Other fiat currencies are even worse. Okay, so again, why would you hold dollars when it's becoming clearer and clearer by the day that Bitcoin is the solution to this? And Michael Saylor, in what is my favorite video and fast becoming the world's favorite video, puts it simply when he explains let's be very careful. I don't want to insult anyone who saves in fiat currency, but he's making a very bold statement about, what we should do with our money. Okay. It's becoming obvious that Bitcoin is the only money we should be storing value in. Okay. So I want to play this quick little video. It's brilliant.
Real estate because they expect
because they want to sell it eventually, Michael. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the people who are, yes, sure, some people pass it on to their children, but like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit. So let me say it a different way. Okay.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor. Okay. Anybody that's rich in the
Okay, so in that interview, she was challenging Michael. Let me add a little bit more background to it. This host was not being a very good host. She was cutting Michael off. She was challenging him. She was telling him he's wrong. She's saying, Michael, but don't you get it? Why don't you sell your Bitcoin? It's gone up so much. Just sell it. And she was like really pushing him. If I had the time, I'd play the full interview. But I think that statement is a good one, okay? It's very clear. You have 100 years of data showing us that the purchasing power of the US dollar is only decreasing. And it's only going to decrease even more the further we head into the debt spiral that we are living through right now. Okay. you can see very clearly that the M2 money supply is going absolutely exponential in the US, okay? Things are only going to get worse. I mean, just have a look at how ridiculous things are looking today in the world. And they're trying to tell us that things are getting better. Oh, you know, look at this. It's healthy. No, it's not healthy. The money supply is going exponential. It's becoming more and more exponential by the day. The most interesting chart that I found recently is actually the US government's interest expense, because this is looking like an absolute shitcoin, how exponential this thing is looking in 2024, okay? It's looking, okay, the US dollar is going to continue losing purchasing power, and it's going to continue losing it at a very, 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 very rapid rate. Okay, have a look at this chart. I wish you could put this on linear scale to really kind of show you guys the scale of what is going on. But today, the US Fed looks like is that $1 trillion? I'm pretty sure that is $1 trillion on the interest expense on their $34 trillion worth of debt every year, which is absolutely ridiculous, okay? For reference, the total US government income or revenue for the year is like $3 to $4 trillion. So that means they're paying 25% of all of the money they bring in just on the interest payments on their debt. So they're admitting they're never going to pay the debt off, okay? The debt is only going to grow. It's only going to increase. It's going to continue increasing exponentially. You know what's funny? This is actually my favorite website to use when I first started my YouTube channel back in 2020. Just kind of thought about it. I don't think I've ever showed you guys this YouTube channel recently. Shows you the debt clock, the US debt clock. And you can see very, very clearly that, you know, we're at $34 trillion of debt. It's not slowing down anytime soon. And you can see how much debt there is per person in America, which is pretty wild. You can actually see that, I don't know, again, I'm going to have to look into this deeper before I start spewing nonsense. But you can see here, US federal tax revenue, they're bringing in $4.7 trillion. And you can see here, debt per taxpayer, $266,000. Okay, so if the US government was ever going to pay back that $34 trillion of debt, you and your future generations are enslaved with $266,000 per taxpayer. Okay, so again, I think it's a phenomenal website. Robert Schmidt says it nicely in the chat. Government debt has NGU technology. Number go up. It is only going up forever. Okay, absolutely forever. Bill says, we called them Paul remix by Little Bubble. That is easily my favorite video. You know what? I'm going to show you guys. Wonder how many views that's got. Last time I saw this video, it was at like 70,000 views. So it's like properly going viral. So this is the video. This is the video that remixes. Whoa, Dove. Chill out, Dove. That's very loud. So this here is the video that remixes Michael Saylor's interview with this lady. It's phenomenal. I love it.
What do you do with the Bitcoin besides it just gather value?
Real estate developers in New York City, they're not buying the real estate because they want to live in it.
But like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit.
People that use fiat currency as a store.
I highly recommend you guys go and watch that full video. It's a cracker. It's an absolute beauty. Again, guys, the power law is going to break. Okay, I think most of you guys in the comments are absolutely based. You've nailed it. I don't want to cover that comment. I saw a comment there that not too sure about. Dan M says, I saw today prediction from Fidelity, global head of macro, BTC will go as high as $1 billion by 2038 on Yahoo Finance, based on Metcalfe's law. Okay, it's funny. I've seen that same article, but I actually haven't made a video on it because even for me, I thought that price prediction was too bullish to cover. But you know what? I'm going to turn that into a video as well for you, Dan, because I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be good to kind of explain, you know, Metcalfe's law in a little bit more detail and kind of explain where that $1 billion per Bitcoin figure comes from. Because it sounds ridiculous. Like, even when I say I think Bitcoin's going to be headed to tens of millions or $100 million per coin, people look at me like I think I'm crazy. And they say, but that's in hyperinflation dollars, so who cares? But like, I think I'm going to actually do a whole video breaking down that prediction, Dan. So I'm going to write that down in my notes as soon as I get off today's video. And I'm going to do those 2 videos for you guys, because I think, again, if you guys want me to make a video, let me know what you want me to see. We're going live every day here. So love the video ideas. All Night Hider says, Metcalfe's law quick summary. BTC strength is proportional to the number of users in the network. Couldn't agree more. And I think the number of users on Bitcoin's network is only going to grow exponentially. If you actually have a look at the number of users who have a significant amount of net worth stored in Bitcoin, we're at like 0.5% adoption today. Okay. And the price of Bitcoin's gone from $0 to $65,000. What happens to Bitcoin when the other 99.5% of people around the world decide to store a significant amount of their value in Bitcoin? I'll ask you guys the question. We've done 1,000,000% return from 2009 to 2024. I think the best returns are in front of Bitcoin, which kind of puts things into perspective of why a $1 billion price tag per Bitcoin might not be as crazy as some people think it is. Okay, so great summary there by All Night Hider. Now, guys, with all that said, I think it's the time of the day. To end this one where it is. Had a lively live stream. We've had nothing but errors today. Had internet errors in the Bitcoin news live stream. Had speaker and audio errors in today's live stream. Really sorry about that. Going to try to get on top of my game for tomorrow's live stream. So again, I'm sorry if you had to put up with those 2 errors earlier. All Night Hider says, Greg Foss always says that. In today's dollars, okay? Bitcoin will be worth tens of millions of dollars per coin in today's dollars. That's my thoughts, not Greg's. I think Greg's at about $2 million per Bitcoin. Will there would-be overlords burn the world down? Sorry, Linda, I don't understand that comment. If you retype it, I can have a crack at it before I close this live stream down. But, guys, I think it's clear. I think the US dollar is far more complicated than Bitcoin. It's a scam. I hope we expose the scam today for anyone who's new. And with all that said, I am going to bounce. Hope you guys have a great weekend. It's Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday. Maybe we're going to get back into the swing of things tomorrow. You might even see 2 live streams tomorrow. Geez, we've got a family live stream here. Pam's other brother, Abilio, is in the chat. ¿Cómo estás, amigo? We got a family live stream. Okay, so again, this week, pretty sure we're going to be popping out an interview with the one and the only, Fred Krueger. He's a hell of a character. He has a fascinating experience in the space. He has some very strong views on the power law. And after we did that interview with Preston Pish, maybe 3 weeks ago on the Bitcoin News YouTube channel, a few of you guys reached out and said, hey, I want to hear more about the Bitcoin power law, Luke, because we talked about it for a few minutes in that interview. So you asked, I'm going to deliver. So we got a full interview with Fred coming this week, talking about the power law. Now, I disagree, so I tried my best to challenge him in that interview on a few different topics. So hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned. Pam says in the chat, today's a family-friendly live stream. Yes, I'm going to be very careful with what I say. Today's a family-friendly live stream. Hope you guys had an amazing weekend. Stay tuned for this week. Got a ton of content coming out the wazoo for you guys. Fred Krueger interview, ton of live streams. Stay tuned. If you want to catch it, subscribe to the channel. I think you might get notified by YouTube if you do that. With all that said, I'll see you guys this week. Thank you so much for the support again, guys. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. Honestly, could not imagine the amount of support I get from you guys. So Bill, thank you so much for the super chat. And Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Stay tuned. I'm going to be making videos on the 2 topics that you guys asked me to make videos on. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do that during the week. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your weekend.